Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to the beautiful circuit of Silverstone, where drivers are going to be fighting out for the coveted EG Evolved RaceFace.Pro and Pro Am ACC Championship Season 24, and this is the start. This is where you want to be, and we're in for round one of absolute incredible racing this evening, and we're looking forward to having some great side-by-side action for round one, plus completely a new set of champions. That being said, it's all about having new blood joining in for the season, and joining me in the commentary box is Jacques Saunders, also known as Jar Jar. Jar Jar, absolutely wonderful to have you. Welcome to Silverstone, and welcome to the final round of 2025, the final season of the RaceFace.Pro, the EG Evolved ACC GT3 Championship.
Yes, guys, thanks. Nice for having me here. And hopefully we're going to have a not kicker of a race. And everybody, good luck.
Well, it's going to be a great one. And so far, qualifying underway. Kieran Patterson leads out the... Christoph Peterson leads out the pack in his mighty Honda. We've seen it previous seasons, been quite strong out there. Daniel De Villiers is out in second place. Bager Krobler currently holding on to third at 2-minute 3.4 around wet conditions here at Silverstone. And Jojo, I mean, these are some very, very tough times for the drivers. Round one and thrown into monsoon rain here at Silverstone is never an easy thing to play around with. Your thoughts onto the start of the season and with the conditions?
Yes, Stephen, they're going to have to stay off the curbs. They're going to have to keep their cars in the black stuff, because the curbs are going to be very, very precarious in these conditions. And hopefully the guys can be disciplined and just keep themselves in the racing line. Keep it, you know, just get your racing line and go for it. Don't make any mistakes and keep it consistent, and that always wins the race. Also interesting to see what sort of pit stop we're going to do here.
That's one thing we need to talk about. The change up from last season, where we've gone from an hour and 20 minutes and you can pit any time during the course of the race. That is swapped over now to the first 20 minutes is just pure racing. After that, you're going to be in the pit stops. That being said, a couple of new drivers and returning drivers. Quan du Plessis heading out there for the Tessa Temto Racing, a South African driver that has made international recognition, back out on circuit with an Audi R8. Not often you get to see those out on the circuit. The returning, the fastest voice in ACC, and that is Alan Patterson out on circuit, which is always wonderful to go and see him returning. And he's got his son, Kieran Patterson, joining us as well. And it's been a while since we've had father and son out on the circuit together. New driver coming in is John Delfrinco, who is all the way out from the UK, out there in the Lamborghini, just out of the top 10 at the moment. No one has beaten Christoph Peterson's time, but Daniel De Villiers in that Nissan GTR is doing everything he can to move forward. Interesting enough, we've also got not many Ford Mustangs joining us this season as well. Jackie Alberts being one of the very few that are out there to represent the Ford brand, along with Gerard Pretorius for the Racing Snails. They're hoping to climb their way up through the order. And that being said, a massive, massive welcome to all the fans out there in the virtual grandstands. Wonderful to have you out here with us. And, well, hope you got your umbrellas, because we're in for a really rainy race, that's for certain. So, that being said, we got Bager Krobler of Team Wolf, was racing in LMU last night in the GT3s, wasn't able to cross a line, but that is going to be changed tonight as he rejoins back into ACC. This is where it's always an interesting factor, because you want to try and keep going, and when you start flirting with different sims, everyone says you might be on the back foot. Jacques, what's your thoughts on that?
Well, look, the different platforms have different variations of the physics, eh? So the boys will have to do some seat time and get themselves familiar with the different quirks of the system. And that's always a challenge, but seat time always prevails. Yes, definitely, eh? Seat time. Seat time will get you there.
That's it. It's all about trying to keep that practice in. So far, Bager Krobler holds on to third place, 0.6 of a second off our leader. Did a 204.15 as his best. Daniel de Villiers, 204.025. Christoph Peterson at the top of the pack in the first place. Kyal with a 203.4, hoping to take the championship. Now, we cast our eyes back to last season. Christoph Peterson hooking in second place with Daniel de Villiers holding into third place. Final round was all for the gambit. This time around, a couple of our big drivers, Henry Mayer, and Fleming Bauer, not in the race and not joining us this season by the looks of it, which means we're going to have completely new champions fighting it out. But with 3 minutes and 48 seconds to go, it is looking to be rather close for our drivers out there. And also the Griffin Sim Racing coming out in force with Antonia Gamble, who goes all the way from coast to coast, continent to continent, cheering on the Griffin Sim Racing. And we cannot forget, go Jason, my boy. And that is just the running phrase that has gone through from different leagues right around, and the Griffin Sim Racing team hoping to build on their success after last night's racing where they were not really on the top of the order. But let's talk about the car choices out here, because we've got the likes of Porsches, Ferraris, Aston Martins. We've got one Honda that's out on circuit. We've got one Audi R8 out on circuit, and that is the likes of Juan Duplessis. He's hoping to really stand head over heels amongst the cars. 41 due to start. The choice of vehicles, you are stuck with it for the season. We got Ludwig Zittmann, who's also in an Audi R8. Do you think the mid-engine cars like the Ferrari, the Audi, the Lamborghini are going to have the advantage during the course of this race, or do you think the front engines like the Aston Martins, the Fords, are going to get the step up, even the Mercedes, here on a very wet circuit?
Well, Stephen, I reckon your Ferraris are good at the braking, so they're going to definitely be contenders for the braking zones. Your mid-engines do tend to do the neutral slides a little bit more than your front engines, but the front engines are much more consistent. So it's going to be a toss-up between the mid-engine and the front engines. But we do know that the Ferrari and the McLaren do brake very, very late on your brake markers. So we're going to be seeing some contestants there outbraking other guys with the front engines.
Well, that is to be said, but take a look at qualifying. Reginald Mitteleni, Savesh Basson, Waylor Johnson, and Ruan Heineke are yet to get a time on the board. They've been putting a wheel off circuit every so often, and that's been compromising them. 1 minute 29 to go. This is where you start stressing. Reginald Mitteleni, who was really in for the championship last season, now needs to try and figure out if he can do it all over again. Ruan Heineke, who's trying to get the pace down for the Griffin Sim Racing team. He wants to improve his time as he's right at the bottom of the pecking order. Chris Piermeister is the last that has managed to get a time on the board. Now, we do have Pro and Pro-Am racing with us this evening. Unfortunately, the number boards are not showing it tonight. It will be resolved for round 2. We can see exactly where is our Pro and Pro-Am leaders that are going to be racing. But let's take a look at this. Christoph Peterson still undefeated at the top of the board at 2 minute 3.492. Vega Krobler up in second. Daniel de Villiers in third. Kieran Patterson on his return back to sim racing here at Raceface is in fourth place. Jason Farmer and Jan Fiers hoping to carry the Fiers name for a double victory. We had Jean Fiers last night in LMU, got on the podium, was quite thrilled to be there. Now it's going to be time for Jan Fiers to do exactly the same thing. Michael Schultz for the Treehouse Works Racing also looks to try and see where he can pick up the pace, where can he get a little bit closer to the racing and see how far up the order that he can really take the fight. But qualifying over, Conrad Martin, Vego Krobler, Daniel de Villiers, Kieran Patterson, Jan Fiers, Darren Miller, Jeffrey LaRue all coming across the line. No improvements there. Juan Duplessis has got a big time up on the board. 0.5 of a second. He moves up into 8th place right at the last. And it looks like he might be the very few that's managing to get a time up. And we've got Ruan Heineke going and fighting out. He's 2.5 seconds up on his time. Savesh going and fighting. He's 1.1 up on his time. Jan Verveers, don't worry about it. We will catch you next week because I know you're going to get that podium yet again. So we'll chat next week on LMU. But now it is pressure, pressure, pressure. Jared Bakum of Team Wolf hoping to really climb his way up from 17th. Once again, that top 10, 0.3 of a second. And it's going to be really going to be a tight fight for him. Alan Patterson, 0.1 up. And take a look, Christoph Peterson, a 2-minute 2.9 in wet weather with a Honda. Oh my hat. Absolutely blistering in qualifying.
Seems to be the dark horse.
Christoph going and showing off why he was fighting for that championship, Sharks. And I've got to say, I'm interested to see how it's going to play out in the race, and especially with our pit stops. Now, we keep an eye on Jared Bakum. He's 0.2 up on his time, along with Alan Patterson, 0.1 up. Do you think there's a chance here to get into the top 10 from 17th?
Now, look, if he's going to focus and just keep it steady on the lines, he's maybe going to clinch that last minute. Maybe, just maybe.
Well, he got all the way into 16th with an improvement, but unfortunately just couldn't get it through the final corner. And as you said, just near that little bit more of a clinch to get his way through. Unfortunately, Lamborghini just not finding the grip. That being said, as we get ready to kick off round 1 of the EG Evolved RaceFace.Pro ACC GT3 Championship here at Silverstone, and a big shout out to everyone out in the virtual grandstands. Big shout out to all our sponsors as well, as we get ready to head down to the grid. And you can hear Jim giving the information saying, watch out for the curbs, watch out for the racing. This is going to be mental. And I've got to say, Jar Jar, what's the game plan here? You are a sim racer. You are fighting your way out the top.
Well, look, Stephen, at the end of the day, you've got two strats. You can either do your 1 lap of fuel, or you can do your half. Whichever way your car's going to behave, whichever way you are comfortable with your car, it's always the one fuel, the 1 liter. That always prevails at the end but it also depends on when you do it. So you don't want to be held back by the back markers. That could put you back a little bit if you time it incorrectly, Stephen.
Don't want to get pulled into the mob at all. It's going to be a tough time out there, especially with the grid here. Pro and Pro-Ams lining up on the track. And the separation between Pro and Pro-Am from our grading, take this, was 0.012. That was the difference between the top 20 of our Pro and the top 20 of our Pro-Am. And I mean, that is just mental to think about. But that all goes away. And this all goes away. Now, we are set up for the race. 28 minutes. Drivers finalizing their setups, getting everything sorted. 2 mandatory pit stops. Hour and 20 minutes worth of racing. What is going through these drivers' heads right now?
I bet you they are thinking about their pressures, and have they chosen the correct setup for their pressures and the laps involved in this very, very exciting race that we're about to have. Definitely.
It's going to be mental. Round 1 in the wet at Silverstone, and the final round 1 for 2025. Who's going to stand at the top of the charts? Let's take a look at our grid from the start, and it is the EG Evolved RaceFace.Pro GT3 Championship Season 24, the longest season of ACC racing here in South Africa, and it's led by the German Christoph Peterson in first place, Begor Krobler in second, Daniel de Villiers in third, along with Kieran Patterson, Jason Farmer in fifth place, Jan Fears, followed by Alan Patterson, Darren Miller, Quan Duplessis, Jeffrey LaRue holds out that top 10. Michael Schultz down in 11th position, followed by Conrad Martin, Jackie Alberts, Chris Heineke, John Delfrinco coming in and having a bit of fun with us all the way out from the UK. He's lined up against Jared Bakum, Sean Lorero, and Graham Keddy starting from pit lane. Bold choice for him. And going to be right at the back of the field. Henry Platt in 19th position with Reginald Mutelani in 20th. Anton Lammers, followed by Martin Rosenbach, Herman Webner, and Jaco Nadir in 24th. Johan van Zeel in 25th. Benjamin Till, Vessel Woda, Rian van der Reist, Henny Porfita, Lucan Haynes, Keegan Bowen, along with Ruin Heineke, Ludwig Zetzman, Christian Zetzman, the brothers coming in, and they actually race iRacing as well. So it's good to see them coming in, joining in once again for ACC. Jared Pretorius, Gavin Scruton, along with Riley Henning, a new driver coming in through the ranks. Henk Petersen in 38th. Chris Biermesser, Savesh Basson, also a new driver coming in with Waylon Johnson, rounding out the pack here tonight as we get ready to go green. But reading through those names, I don't know about you, Jean, it's going to be an interesting race. It's going to be a fast race, and we've got some of the best in the world looking to square up.
I definitely do believe that this is going to be a definite exciting race. With 40 drivers on the track, we are going to have a crazy beginning. Crazy. The championship is open, and we've got new drivers, we've got old drivers, and it's anybody's game. So let's see what happens. Hopefully everybody keeps it on the black stuff.
That's it, from former champions to champions that have missed out, and also new blood coming in. This season is going to be wild. And if you're just joining us, a massive welcome to you all out there in the virtual grandstands. I know it's a wet Silverstone day, but fear not, we've got coffee, we've got cookies, and we got you guys covered for all of it, and the complete racing action here as they make their way around the circuit. They're going to slow the cars down, so a double file formation, 70 kilometers an hour, and they will wait for the green lights. My name is Stephen Koenig. Joining me in the booth is Jacques Saunders, also known as Jar Jar Binks for those out there that keep an eye on the sim racing scene here in South Africa, trying out his hand in commentary and really looking forward to it. But Jacques, as we see the drivers maneuvering their way through, Christoph Petersen going and trying to cycle some heat into his tires down the Hanger Straight. Your thoughts on this?
That's exactly what you do, eh? When you're doing your formation lap, you kind of want to push your brake in halfway, try and speeden up the process for your tire pressures to get on point, because that first corner, if you haven't gotten your pressures on point, you're going to have a big surprise, and that's not a good thing for anybody that wants to be in a race like this with all the pressure behind you. So it's very crucial that we pump your brakes and you keep everything ready and you get ready for your pressures. It's all about the pressures in the formation lap.
All about the temperatures, the pressures that all come in. It's all crucial, especially here at Silverstone as they round the final corner, looking towards the start line. 41 starters here in the Pro and Pro-Am for round one, and it is going to be lights on, lights on. We wait for the green.
Let's go.
We hold, and we release as it's Christoph Petersen off to the start, flying off the line ahead of Baker Krobler. Daniel De Villiers holds the inside line as Kieran Patterson goes venturing out. His own teammate not having an easy time. A little bit further back, Jason Farmer tries to keep it all in check. It looks to be okay at the moment. Quan Duplessis going and battling through Maggots and Beckett's off circuit and gets absolutely passed by the field, who are hunting their way by. Conrad Martin continues on his drive, but loses out a little bit of drive to the likes of Chris Heineke, who tries to make his way back through the field. And Duplessis has got a definite problem. Sean Loureiro out there in the Nissan GTR trying to also get back into the fray of the fight, as it's all looking reasonably clean for a race start in the wet. I thought there would have been a little bit more carnage, but it 100%. Turns out better than we all expected.
The boys are very, very patient, and they are taking their time because it's a long race, you know. We've got 2 pit stops here, and we don't want to just mess up our race for the full race. That's not going to work, so we have to be disciplined.
Well, Darren Miller trying to catch up to his teammates up ahead. Jan Verveers looks to defend, and Michael Schultz from the Treehouse Works Racing swings it around the outside, hoping to go for a little bit of an undercut. Can't really get the drive, tries to put his nose in. These Porsches absolutely brawling, and right in the mix as well, Jeffrey LaRue from the Griffin Sim Racing, giving it everything he can to really venture out a little bit forward but everyone running line astern at the moment, and this is where it gets a little bit tricky, I would think, as now you're starting to feel a little bit more enthusiastic on trying to get those passes. Now, Jar Jar, your thoughts in this matter, this first 20 minutes of crucial hard racing to see who can move up through the order, and especially in this pack racing, this nose to tail that the drivers are going through, and the spray that's coming off these cars as well. What would be the game plan for you if you were like Conrad Martin over here, who's chasing down Chris Heineke ahead of him?
Well, look, Stephen, you obviously want to wonder if the car you're following in front of you is following another car in front of you. You kind of don't want to be caught with the Constantino effect. Oh, no. And we have an altercation there.
Yeah, that was Sean Loureiro who tried getting past, and it was 3 wide. Sorry to jump in there. And Conrad Martin just getting absolutely squashed between the field.
Yeah,
but that was Sean
look.
Loureiro who took the brunt of that impact. And unfortunately, dropped down the order. The 23 not having an easy time out there, and not quite the way that you want to go racing. So let's quickly go back on the replay of it and watch this, as it looked like Conrad Martin got a poor exit. It was a lineup left and right of him into the left-hander. Oh.
Wow. Unbelievable. Difficult scenario there to be handled. Very difficult.
One of those moments of who is going to break first. Unfortunately, everyone was looking at one another. That old Spider-Man meme where you're pointing at one another of who was the actual person. So not quite an easy time.
No, look, the guys, they kind of want to stay in the slip. They kind of want to stay with the momentum. They do have to make a choice eventually who's holding them up, and if they want to maybe use their pits to their advantage. But at the moment, the main aim is to not get damaged, to not go off the track, not to hit the curbs, not to hit your fellow racer. So let's see how they're doing. But for now, they're doing amazing.
Don't want to score that damage that you're going to land up feeling during the course of the race, because once you start picking up that little bit of damage, it also starts adding to your fuel and tire usage. Now, we're not expecting any of the drivers to go and swap out their tires during the course of this race due to the nature of the circuit plus the rain. But that being said, we got to talk about some of the fast drivers out there. Beggar Frobler setting the fast lap time of the race at 2-minute 4.9 on that last lap.
Wait.
So we got a 2-minute 3 in qualifying into a 2-minute 2. But take a look at how these drivers are still finding a bit more pace every step of the way and trying to see where they can go. Martin Rothenbach gets a climb on Conrad Martin, who now deals with Reginald Mutaleni. Jason Farmer finding out with Kieran Patterson. This is an interesting combo here, because I'm going to cast a little bit of a shadow back to the old seasons. There was an ERA season where Jason Farmer was transitioning from Griffin Sim Racing to PWSR. So he got to work with the team, he got to understand the team. Unfortunately, he didn't join up with PWSR. He decided he wanted to be with the Griffin Sim Racing, his family side, which is always phenomenal to see. But the pressure comes in. He knows these drivers rather well and seems to be working with both Kieran and Alan around him. But we are getting yellow flags. That is Jeffrey LaRue out in the dirt, the 27. 27 biting the dust, and it looks like he had contact with the 25 of Jackie Alberts in the Mustang. So let's take a quick look. So he hit the curb, goes out wide, tries to bring himself back. Jackie's got the run, looks to the inside through the right hand. They're going to be hard on the brakes. Oh, Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton. I went back to the Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton there, because it was nearly just replicating that incident. Take a look, Michael Schultz around the outside, getting brave. Darren Miller with a solid defense holds him back. Now the question comes in, Jacques, you've been in these situations before where you have a driver like Darren Miller, super defensive driver, knows how to do it. But where the case of Michael Schultz, incredibly quick, but just not able to find that pass. What would be the game and the strategies that would be utilized at the moment? Would you rather lift and coast? Would you carry on the attack? what would you do in this situation? And the lap times tell it all. They are marking the same lap times as one another, lap after lap.
Look, Stephen, you can always do a number of different strategies, but some of the ones that do work are those flinch moves. You just put your driver under pressure, and hopefully he can make a mistake. And obviously, you know, you have to be clean about it. But you know, just put your nose in there, give the guy a little bit of a stress, you know, and hopefully he can make a mistake and you can pass him that way. Because most of the time it's very difficult to pass on a wet track like this. But I would say just push, keep the pressure, try and drive him into a mistake.
Keep in the mirrors, keep him guessing, and they're catching up to the first of the back markers. Unfortunately, a little bit further down than where he would like to be. That would look like was for Fears by the looks of it, who is down the order. For Fears. I'm not 100% sure. Oh, Michael Schultz gets the run.
He has a little bit of contact.
Now, having the likes of Darren Miller falling off the circuit, not quite getting the drive he needs to keep the power on. Still, just braving out the conditions, and Schultz fighting tooth and nail, bumper to bumper, as they continue this absolute brawl with one another. Thriller Miller himself is now going and dealing with Michael. Yeah, that's his nickname. Alan Patterson actually gave him his nickname of Thriller Miller. And then there was the hitman of Daniel de Villiers. He was the hitman for a long time. He was a torpedo first, then he was a hitman. But now, so far, he hasn't had any problems with getting a few hits. But the contracts haven't been looking so good on his part. But let's talk about a good race going on. Reginald Muttolini trying to go around the outside of Conrad Martin.
Sidecar battle.
Oh, so close, and it just fouled Reginald up, and here comes Herman Whitner getting the pass around the outside. There we go, Herman sneaks it in, saw his moment, got the pass on Reginald. Jaco Nadir in the Mustang looking to try and close up the gap. And this is where it comes in. Where can you attack on this circuit? Because it seems like if you're going to go on the attack, you've got to get it done. Otherwise, you are absolutely buggered.
Yeah, you're going to be in the dog box if you make it. If you overshoot the corner and make a tumble of it. So you must be patient and just wait. Otherwise, you must pit and try and, you know, take your chances with the pit and see who's in front of you after that.
Well, so
Try
far,
the undercut.
Take a look at Reginald. A clean pass through Herman, who was trying to line up Conrad Martin. Didn't quite work out in his favor, but take a look who's also joined in for this battle of 14th to 9th, well, all the way down to 21st. Benjamin Till, Anton Lummers, Jean Van Sale, Jeffrey LaRue, all closed in on the gap. We are getting further reports of contact between Michael Schultz and Darren Miller, who were involved in the problem, but we are getting further reports there was contact between Conrad Martin and Reginald Muttolini. We were just talking about it.
There's a pushing.
The 163 lands up in a problem. Let's take a look at the replay here. Conrad Martin looking to go around the outside, no room to get on by, closes up at a rate of knots, and now Reginald stuck on the outside, looking to where he can go. Late on the brakes, hooking the rear quarter. Conrad goes flying.
Yeah, no, look, both those races were pushing the limit there.
Well, Conrad all the way from the likes of 15th, now down into 25th position. Got a little bit of a climb to try and make up, as we do see Benjamin Till, Jean Van Sale, Rian van der Reist also joining into the party as well in his beautiful Mercedes, and he is really fighting it out. We got a brawl here in the mid-pack that is going oh so well, but we've also got to talk about some of the pit stops that have happened, because Graham Kelly has come out. He started from pit lane, but let's take a look. Jared Bicum, Juan Duplessis, Lucan Haynes, Sean Lorero, Gavin Scruton, Keegan Bowen, Henk Peterson, Ruben Heineke, and Gerald Pretorius have all done their pit stops for the first one, and they were all short stops, under 10 seconds.
That's it. They did the 1 liter or the 1 lapper. That's what they did.
Going for the short stop to make it work and trying to go for that undercut as we cut back to the battle in the mid-pack, as we do see Benjamin Till having Riley Henning, Emil Frey Racing, going and getting the drive and sporting the beautiful colours of the Max Verstappen, Verstappen Racing.com. That's out there. I had to get that one right. It's always, is it a Verstappen? Is it a Max? Is it, what would it be? Always a guess.
Nah, it's Verstappen.
It's a Verstappen. Okay, because
It's a Verstappen.
Because Jos Verstappen is the guy to be part of it. I heard that quiver of a laugh going, nah, let's rather not go and talk about his dad. All right, well, Michael Schultz ahead of Darren Miller. Chris Heineke now onto the back. Chris Heineke, former PWSR driver years ago, knows Darren Miller rather well. The Griffin Sim Racing team driver, all pushing on. But interesting to see the Porsches keeping within the top 10, which is a car that has been looked down on previous season. What do you think would be the change for these drives? What would be the game plan for picking the Porsche, which is an unusual car? We do use the LFM BOP, but is it strong enough to fight out for the season?
Well, look, the gear ratios with the Porsche is very peculiar. And in certain corners, the gear ratios do come into play quite well for the Porsche. If you do know the characteristics of your Porsche, and you have got yourself a good setup from the different platforms that you can get them from, and you can master the Porsche, it is a formidable car that. It also is very good at braking very late, and its second gear and third gear are very strong, very, very, very strong. So, and the sound note from that car will just keep you pushing on and on and on. So, it is a hard car to drive, but if you can get the right setup and you have the right seat time, it is a weapon. It is definitely a weapon.
I'm going to be controversial and say I'm not a big fan of the Porsche in terms of the GT3 car. The sound of that, the diff, drives me up a cliff. It feels almost like being in a Toyota Avanza taxi, and there's just no oil in that diff, and you can hear it. It's I know people love it, but I can't take the sound. I've tried. But when you compare it to like Alan Patterson in the Aston Martin AMR V8, who is just absolutely having a great race at the moment with Jason Farmer as they battle out against the Ferrari. But also, if you go further back, Jeffrey LaRue, Jaco Nadir, the Ferrari, the V6 turbocharged, having the naturally aspirated V8 of the Ford Mustang on the back of him. I mean, the crystal sound that you get from these type of cars, it wins in anything. I mean, I favor V8s for a reason. They've got 8 cylinders. They use all 8 cylinders. They shout to the roof. They let you know they're around. But they're always just fun cars to all sit in, listen, and be a part of. I mean, have you ever fallen asleep with a V8?
No, not quite.
Exactly.
No.
They're so noisy. That's it. It's the same. If you had to compare engine notes to music, as we've got a symphony out on circuit with a variety of Porsches, Ferraris, Astons, Nissan GTR, I would say the V8 is your metal music. It's that hard thumping music that gets to you. It's also, the only way you could describe it is the Porsches are like Beethoven. You know, that's classic.
Beethoven, a symphony of 6-cylinder joy.
That's
yes,
it. The
100%.
boxer motor works like a charm. Well, the V8 is metal music. That is literally singing in all caps. Your general music, you write and you got like a capital letter and then you got your normal sentence. Metal music is just all caps. You just shouting. And that's what Jackie Alberts is doing
but with
right
all
now.
those caps comes great responsibility, because you've got all that power and you have to know what you're doing. You know.
When in doubt, flat out is what some of the drivers are doing, as Jackie Alberts 0.4 of a second to Darren Miller. And definitely not a Franz Herman that's out there on the track. As much as we like to think there would be one, but not quite, as our absolute top-tier drivers from across the world coming in and racing. But we jump on board with Jackie Albertson Mustang, closing up to Darren Miller, not able to get the drive and just battling to stay in the mix here. What would be the game plan is he's winning on the brakes but just losing out coming out of the corners.
Once again, just keep that pressure. Just there he goes. You see, you just have to wait, be patient, not take out yourself and your partner, and just wait. You just have to wait. When there's traffic like this, you have to wait. Otherwise, if you see him make a mistake and you can make the move, you must make it.
Well, with all the great racing out there, let's take a look at a father and son duo at the moment. Alan Patterson.
Absolutely fantastic.
Alan Patterson putting pressure on his own son. Kieran Patterson, a former pro champion here in RaceFace.Pro, has been out of the game for a little bit, and Alan is all over the back of him, saying, listen, buddy, you got to move. I've got Jason Farmer. Listen, it's glad to have you back here, but go at this point. You can almost feel the little bit of shouting in the car of, come on, and just a little bit more pace.
Giddy up.
Wonderful to see the son finding out with the dad. But at the moment, let's talk about the dominating lead. Christoph Peterson has got a 11-second gap to Bego Krobler in second place. Daniel De Villiers holds third place, and he's slowly losing drive and suddenly having Kieran, Allen, and Jason Farmer coming back at him at a rate of knots. So the PWSR cars all lined up. The only one that's missing is Darren Miller, who's down in 10th position. So from a teammate perspective, Jacques, what would be the game plan for Alan, Kieran, and Daniel, considering they're holding 3rd, 4th, and 5th, yet to do their first stop during the course of this race?
Oh, well, once again, the boys have obviously had a pre-interview, and they know who's fast between each other. So there will be a pecking order. Depends, eh? It depends. I'm sure they've all chosen the same strat, depending on their skill sets. So I would say they're going to go for the same strat. Definitely, eh?
Going for the same strat may be dangerous, as Jeffrey LaRue looked on the inside of Reginald Muttolini. Jackie Alberts into the pits. Now looking to get ahead of Jared Bakum, who is the leader of those that have done their first of the pit stops. And you could take a look at Jeffrey LaRue getting a little bit unsettled. Yako Nadir keeps the pressure on him, trying to figure out where to drive. The KSR driver looking to fight his way through and really putting pressure on. But late on the brakes, Jason Farmer hugs the inside.
Unbelievable.
He's stuck to the outside. Can he get the drive? Not quite there. Jason Farmer hunted Alan Patterson, who lost out that little bit of drive and nearly had a Farmer problem. So, as we head back, we take a look. Oh, big one coming in for Quan Duplessis. One of our drivers early on getting a issue, has got a track limits violation, a drive-through penalty that needs to be served during the course of the race, as we've got Henry Platt and Vessel Woda who are fighting it out in the Lexus versus Mercedes. But for Duplessis, he's already done a pit stop. A drive-through penalty added onto it is a nightmare start to his race. What do you think of that, Jacques?
Now look, when you're doing your practicing, you do want to do some practice runs through your pit stops and make sure that you don't cross that line or go through the line too fast. Or there's so many things that you can do. But yeah, very, very crucial part of the race, and nobody wants to have a drive-through. That is a race killer, definitely.
Sean Lerero looking to try and get round and is fighting tooth and nail at the moment for 31st position. Duplessis trying to hold his line and just not getting any breathing room. A little bit behind them, Ludwig Zitzman out there in the Team Triad colours looks to continue on his battle, but there is a car stuck in pit lane, and that is Henk Petersen, who is just parked it at the moment, and I wonder if there's a bit of repair work being done to the car. Jeffrey LaRue all over the back of Reginald Mutaleni as he continues on the
Pressure.
drive. Michael Schultz and Jean Fiers continue on their fight. But with this being said, we're down to 58 minutes. We have gone past the 20-minute mark. We're into the hour. Where is the pit stop strategy going to come into play now, Jacques? What do you think is going to be the game plan for some of the pit stops? Considering if we go to Jared Bakum, he's down in 28th position at the moment, leading out those that have done their first pit stop during the course of this race.
Well, I think 50% or, just about will want to do the middle one or the end, or they'll do the end one. The end one's very popular when you do the last lap, and hopefully you can just come out of the pits in front of your competitors. But yeah, predominantly you got your early pit stop, or you got your late pit stop, or you get the guys that are a little bit more comfortable with the middle pit stop. So you're going to see a lot of guys doing the end pit stop, which could work, provided they didn't get any traffic. But the early pit stops are always the way to go, always.
Well, we saw a couple of drivers doing that. I'm expecting to see majority of the field heading in at roughly the 45-minute mark, as that would be halfway through the race. Rian van der Race and Yuko Nadir fighting it out, and van der Race just not able to get that pass on Nadir at the moment, who runs out wide. The Mustang loses the grip, and there goes Rian van der Race for the Kramadulis Racing team. He's trying to hold it around the outside. Can he get the power down? Oh, it's going to be a tough one in through the right-hander as Nadir gets the faster line. Side by side they go, and oh, big mistake coming in from Van der Race. Get on the brakes, on the curb, get the snap, and just clip the rear of Nadir.
Did a wonderful job of keeping that car on the track.
I was fully expecting it to bail into the wall, that is for certain. And really making life a little bit interesting as we see Chris Heineke getting past the likes of Jan Verveers, who's ducked down into 9th position and looking to try and claw his way back side by side. Ferrari versus Porsche, late on the brakes. Who's going to make it work? Verveers, lots and lots of pressure on him to try and go for a podium and fighting against Chris Heineke. So let's take a
all across the board.
Let's take a look at this interesting battle. Kieran Patterson, Alan Patterson, and the likes of Daniel De Villiers. 3rd place on the cards.
Wow.
And Kieran trying to go around the outside on De Villiers.
Wow.
Who's fighting. This is a brawl. There is no team orders there. This is Kieran trying to get the run on Daniel. And Alan looking to also compromise. And Jason Farmer is hanging on the tail.
He's farming for his positions, definitely. 100%.
Late on the brakes, Kieran gets the pass. Alan swoops in. Daniel De Villiers down into 5th from 3rd. Now has Farmer all on the back of him. I've got a funny feeling Team Orders is not in the mix there. I think this is race. Incredible stuff. Oh, Rian van der Race gets a drive-through penalty for track limits exceeded. Our poor Mercedes that got that snap oversteer, unfortunately, getting a drive-through as well in 17th position. He's yet to do his first stop. Not an easy time out there, but it's going to be an interesting one as we keep an eye on Daniel De Villiers, who's got Jason Farmer all over the back of him. Alan and Kieran are playing a bit of a long game with one another, trying to see where it can work. Alan trying to go side by side. Look at this. The dad up on the inside of Kieran, late on the anchors, gets it. He swings it in. Kieran trying to go back underneath him.
Look again.
Oh my hat. Father, son brawling it out, and it looks like dad getting ahead of Kieran, and that has brought Daniel De Villiers back into the mix. The team captain, Alan Patterson, up into 3rd place in his debut run here in the Pro Division for the RaceFace.Pro. He is a former Pro-Am champion, and he's looking to try and make it work for him, but don't count out Jason Farmer, who's the only non-PWSR car in this mix. He's all over the back of Daniel De Villiers and trying everything, throwing it, hammer and tongs to see where he can clear. But with all this going on, you're in a team, Jacques, you're in a very, very big team of SBR. Is this a dangerous game to play when you're starting to fight with your teammates? Or is this something that you want to have happen?
Look, yeah, back at the SBR, we kind of know each other, and we know who's faster predominantly most of the time. And yes, we are very much similar to our times and everything, but you never want to bump your teammate and mess your race up and his race, and then let the guy catch you at the back. So it's all a waiting game, eh? And it's all about the camaraderie. You have to, you know, you want to push. You want to push, but because it's the first race of the season, you know, it's everybody's game, eh? So I think the guys are going to be pushing for each other, and there's no holds barred here. They're not going to be doing team orders. It's all about the first race, and as the points stack up, you'll see those type of strategies come into place. But for now, I think it's a dogfight between everybody, eh? Everybody's fighting.
It's going to be a great one as Rianfin raced in through the pit, serving his drive-through that he racked up and looks to carry on the race. Martin Rotenbach all over Darren Miller as well. But let's talk about our 24th position car. And this is Jared Bakum, who is currently leading out those that have done their first pit stop and looking to try and move his way up through the order. He's caught up to the Pandacity machine of Chris Biermeister, and he's having a little bit of a tough time out there. Jared from Team Wolf taking the early gamble in the race, pitting early, gets himself going, and looks to try and continue his way on. I know there's a lot of Pandacity fans out there cheering on, not only in sim racing, but in Valorant, in Rocket League, and many more. Oh, Henning a little bit too fast out there. And Henry Platt gets it in the door. And here comes Anton Lummers, who just saw that brawl and is not too concerned with it. Oh, and a little bit more of a touch between likes of Platt and Henning. And it does look like Henning has given up the ghost there. He runs out wide. Anton Lummers gets the pass done and dusted and was just around to capitalize. But, oof. Definitely not quite a fight we want to see there. A bit of UFC style coming in for the racing scene. But big talks, Daniel de Villiers into the pits from the top 10. Doing his first pit stop at the 50-minute and 30-second mark. So at the 50-minute mark, he's into the pits. Chris Heineke dives into the pits as well. Is this the big strat? We talked about most of the cars will come in at the 45-minute mark. These two are taking the gamble to come out ahead of Jared Bakum, who's down in 24th position. Do you think it's going to work out for de Villiers and Heineke?
Oh, it's very difficult to say. I would definitely say, I would say the early stop would have been the best, provided the traffic wasn't against you. But the middle one, it's pretty neutral. It depends on the momentum of your race and how consistent you are.
Well, de Villiers in and out through the pit, stopped in the box for 5.3 seconds, and the whole pit lane was 26.8. He's down into 14th position, well clear of Jared, and Chris Heineke comes out behind Jared. He had a slower stop for 13.2 seconds, so the fueling came into play, but de Villiers leads out those that have done their first pit stop. And it's an interesting tell, because remember, he dropped all the way into 5th position during the course of the race, and now has come out in 14th. Is this a strat to work out to get ahead of the rest of the field? And the next question is, does the team know about that early strat that's just been pulled on?
That's good. Definitely have been. They definitely spoke about it before the race. There's no other way about it. The team always, they always speak about what they're going to do. That's how we do it as a team, man. Yeah.
Well, when you're fighting for 3rd place, I think a bit of skullduggery is around and in order to try and come through. I mean, this is it. It's a driver's championship. It's round 1. It's maximizing the points. Yes, we have a team championship, but, I mean, it's first who comes across the line that will take the victory. And I've got a funny feeling it was a bit of momentum and saying, I'm losing it behind you guys. I'm going to get past you because I'm going to let you guys brawl it out that little bit further. I think it was a bit of a hindsight of, I'm diving in now, because none of the other PWSR cars have followed that. They've continued on for an extra 2 laps during the course, an extra lap or 2 at the moment, and continue to fight out amongst each other. With that being said, it's Christoph Peterson carving his way through the traffic, 16 seconds ahead, holds the fastest lap time of the race of a 2:03.6 during the course of it, and he is running away. Bego Krobler holds on to 2nd place for Team Wolf. Alan Patterson holds on to 3rd place overall. Kieran Patterson in 4th. Jason Farmer in 5th. Michael Schultz has gone and cleared his way around, trying to get going. And we do have the 447 of the team trial. Gavin Scruton off into the dirt and just put too much power. Too much power on the grass, and that's all she wrote. Swinging that tail round and round, and a race falling even further back down into 34th position, and Yaku Nudia for 35th, right on his tail, looking to try and get on by. Not really how you want things to go, and your thoughts on it?
Yeah, no, look, you never want to do that in a race like this, especially when you're competing with those pit stop strategies. But yeah, these things happen, and that's racing, eh?
Jan Verveers fighting out with Darren Miller. Martin Rotzenbach joining into the fray as well. Verveers goes out a little bit wide, trying to figure out where he can get the toe and guard his line. Rotzenbach trying to go for the inside and was committed to do so. Same as Herman Whitner going around the outside. Reginald Mutalini tried for the inside line. He got carved off. Coming in a tough race out there. Herman goes out a little bit wide. This is going to work out for Reginald. Up and under. Can he get it done? Can he get that nose forward? Oh, it's on the gas. It's on the traction control. Oh, side by side. This is what we love to see. Our Pro-Am drivers.
Unbelievable sportsmanship.
Reginald gets on by. Jeffrey LaRue waiting in the wings as well, as Martin Rothenbach goes into pit lane. Herman Whitner now feeling Jeffrey LaRue, looking around. Maggots and Bakers. It's going to be in through the right, in through the left, in through the right, and Herman just carries the momentum ahead of Jeffrey LaRue. Your thoughts thus far on this amazing battle?
No, look, these guys definitely have got spatial awareness. This is unbelievable to see. These guys are unbelievable when it comes to clean racing. There is definitely some skills here. Definitely some good clean racing. Keeping it on the track, staying away from your partner. Everything looks very good here. The battles are unbelievable.
And this is why we say the EG Evolved RaceFace.Pro ACC GT3 Championship is the place to be, the premier South African sim racing championship to be fighting against many from around the world. If you think about it, we have got a variety of drivers here fighting for the top spot. However, there can only be one winner in each of the different classes. We have got the likes of our Pro and Pro-Am here. We do have the likes of our Gold and Silver being part of the show as well. They broadcasted by the SBR team. Big shout out to them. Big thank you as well. So there's so much going on out on the circuit and really fighting their way through. But let's take a look as we've got our virtual grandstands. Tienes Puerto just checking in on the race for the Pandacity team that have been really in a good fight at the moment. Missing a couple of drivers in ACC, but have the top tier like Mordre Claassen having a stellar run in the world of LMU. But let's talk about a top 10 coming in. John Del Finco, who comes into the pits, and he is coming out from the top 10. Herman Whitner joining him as well. That bumps up Reginald Mutaleni, Jeffrey LaRue, and Daniel de Villiers, who leads out those that have done the pit stop. So Daniel, once again, just out of that top 10. But what a climb on his part. And I've got a funny feeling that undercut pit stop is going to be incredibly strong here.
Always the way to go, eh? The early pit stop is always the way to go. So far, from what I've discovered, eh? Definitely.
A tough race indeed, and an early pit stop gonna play into his hand as most of the drivers now starting to consider those stops. 43 minutes left in this race. Plenty of action going on. Plenty of incredible action from our pro and prams that are fighting out there. Martin Rodenbach fighting out against Sean Loureiro. Sean Loureiro was an early problem for his drive. Remember, he got sideswiped in that 3-car into maggots, which never works out well. He was able to save it going into the kitty litter, but now down in 21st position, he's got Martin Rotenbach for a bit of company. What is going to be the game plan here, as he's got a lot of pressure being put on from the likes of Martin Rodenbach, who is just not making it easy for Sean Loureiro.
Oh, he's gonna have to pressure him, man. He's gonna have to put him into a mistake. He's gonna have to outbrake him. Otherwise, the guy behind him is gonna catch him. So yeah, keep the pressure, keep it on the black stuff once again, and just go. Keep it going, keep that momentum.
18 corners to make it work. Michael Schultz into pit lane, slows it down to 50 kilometers an hour. Joining him in pit lane is Graham van der Race. So Jacques, with a circuit like this that is synonymous for legends being created, drivers having to really fight it out, and has been a legendary circuit not only in the case of Formula 1 single-seater racing, but also in the world of endurance with the Britcar 24-hour. This circuit has definitely been a favorite for sim racers. From your experience driving out a little bit early, you got to be out on the circuit, got to see what it's all about. What's your takeaway of driving around Silverstone for 1 hour and 20 minutes? I would presume it is extremely tiring over a course of race where you're fighting out like this. Looks like Jacques has just stepped away from the microphone at the moment. But Jared McComb and Conrad Martin continue on their fight, pushing a little bit harder, trying to see where they get the momentum to carry on. This is always a tough time for our drivers. Anton Lummers and John van Zyl continue to fight out for their running order, always trying to push themselves that little bit more, trying to step up the game and see how it's all going to go. But it's phenomenal to see you guys out there in the virtual grandstands going and cheering on Panacity drivers. Tianas Buerta going and saying how's it, which is always great to see. Antonio Gamble, Jean Fears, and plenty more out there. And feel free to let us know, who do you think is going to have this race at the moment? Because Christoph Peterson looks to be a dominating victory. He is 20.5 seconds away from Bego Krobler. But that being said, take a look at our pit lane. Alan Patterson into the box, getting his pit stop done and dusted. He's followed by Lucan Haynes from the Racing Snails and Graham Kelly into the pits. Now, Alan's taking an early stop. That's released Kieran Patterson and Jason Farmer to close up the distances as well. Who's going to be able to get this time? That is going to be the interesting part. So it's going to be that great run. As we continue on the fight here, Jason Farmer fighting out against Kieran Patterson. Sean Loureiro with a drive-through penalty is going to be suffering for his race and dropping out of that top 20. Not what he wanted to have here for round one. Van Zyl into pit lane. And a great drive on his part. Always fun to see. Kieran Patterson goes and fights his way through the order. And is it going to work out for him at the moment? Everyone trying to step up the game, see where they're going to go. And how is it going to work out? As we got Jason Farmer keeping the pressure on Kieran Patterson, Bego Krobler trying to get going. Christoph Peterson into the pits. Now trying to get himself sorted, and will be figuring out what is the game plan for him at the moment. As Bathurst, we do know is a driver that, whoa, actually going for an earlier stop. This is a driver that has done a double stop in the past. He's double stacked it and try to carry it forward, but he is trying to cut off the head of Christoph Peterson. Kieran Patterson and Jason Farmer going to fight it out between one another, but they are going to inherit the lead away from Christoph Peterson. So a long way is going to be the big game plan for them. Now I wonder what's the strategy coming into play here. So Kieran Patterson, Jace Farmer up on the order. Reginald Mutaleni up 13 positions from where he started, is in 7th, but yet to do his stop. Daniel de Villiers is the one to keep an eye out for, as he is currently leading those that have done their, well, never mind, Christoph Peterson is now going to be leading those that have done their stop as he falls out into 4th place. Bathurst is going to see Daniel de Villiers come around the corner and flat into his mirrors as they battle on for the likes of a net 3rd place. As it stands, Bathurst going to be swinging all the way through. Jason Farmer keeps the pressure on, looking to try and get some momentum during the course of this race. Bathurst looks to carry on the drive as well. So some really tough racing out there, and we'll be trying to think out the long game of what they can do. So Bathurst, Daniel de Villiers continues on, and we are getting in for the race. As just getting word from a co-commentator, unfortunately had to step away from the mic, and we'll be back next week. As they move forward in this race. So round 1, going to be an exciting time for our drivers, and looking forward to moving forward in through the order and continuing on their drive. And we'll be pushing on. So, as we carry on, 35 minutes to go in this 1 hour, 20-minute race. We also got a couple of drivers that have completed their pit stops. Keegan Bowen has completed along with Jared Becum, and Benjamin Till, in likes of Johan van Zeel, has also completed all his pit stop. Gavin Scruton is pit stop. Oh, that is a huge contact. Herman Whipner into the back of Henry Platt. Not the first time these two have seen each other's doors. This time it was Whipner right up the boot of the likes of the Lexus, and that was just under braking. Unfortunate contact for the 33 and the 9 that has brought them a bit closer. Let's try and get a on-board look as we take a look at this huge fight. Herman closes up the distance, trying to figure out where he can go. Just missed the brake board. Bang! Into the back of the Lexus. Turns him round. Does stop. This is where I do want to talk about a very interesting drive for many of our drivers. You will see they'll actually stop and wait. Now, for those that are new to sim racing and wondering what it is, it's actually a gentleman's agreement. It's a tip of the hat as a sorry. You still got to get the faults to the stewards. Don't get me wrong. But it's one way to say, I made a mistake. That's not how I want the position. Rather hand it back and try and restart the race from there. Both sustaining some damage, but both are understanding of the race. It's instead of going and getting cross with one another and going straight out into the likes of our post-race, getting into one another, it's more of a joke that you, hey, okay, sorry, I drove into the back of you, hit the brakes a bit wrong, sorry, tip of the hat on that one. Which, you know, you've got to give it up to the drivers on that gentleman's agreement. We are a couple of drivers out of this race, 3 drivers. We started with 41, we are now down to 39 as they continue to fight on. Bathurst and Daniel de Villiers trying to close up the distances between one another. Jackie Albert's a little bit further down in 21st position, has completed all these stops. He's hoping to get a little bit closer to our top 10 as Christoph Peterson leads out those who have completed all these pit stops. Kieran Patterson, Jason Farmer, and Darren Miller yet to get into the pits for their first stop as they continue on the charge. A difficult race for the drivers. Reginald Mutilini, a dive into the pits to see if this is going to work out for him. First stop of the race, as it's an early box as he tries to get himself sorted out. Bago Krobler, Daniel De Villiers, and Jeffrey LaRue continue on their drive, trying to make it all work. Henry Platt goes right up against the back of Herman Wepner. So, as we carry on with our race at the moment, Henry Platt catches up to Herman Wepner, Keegan Bowen, and Chris Biermeister going and having a brawl as well. We getting these little fights out there on the circuit and trying to get going. Keegan Bowen out there in the Ravenous Motorsports AMR, and it's good to see him out there, but it is going to be a tough time. Chris Biermeister from Pandacity has been improving every step of the way, but it's Waylor Johnson who has got a problem. A drive-through penalty for track limits exceeded, and he is having Jared Rickham in the Lamborghini closing up behind him. Graham for the race, who's already had a drive-through, is going and looking, going, yeah, I know that pain, buddy. I really know that pain. I'm going to be a bit on the cautious side as Waylor dives into the pits to get himself sorted in the JP Motorsport colours. So drive-through penalty going to be served, and that is going to affect the race as Jaco Nadir catches up to John Delfinco, who goes and really keeps the hammer down at the moment. The Lamborghini driver fighting to keep in the top 20 on his debut outing here at RaceFace.Pro, and I gotta say, absolutely wonderful to see some new faces and new names coming into the fray. Christoph Peterson going on the inside as fighting against Darren Miller, and we've seen Darren's not afraid to go elbow to elbow. He knows to put pressure on the moment. Christoph Peterson makes it easy, and we do have a car stopped down circuit. That is the 44, and that is Jan van Sale, who has parked off in the dirt. He spun it, but we're going to keep an eye on this battle for third position. Jeffrey LaRue into the box from fourth place, and Darren Miller, who's now defending tooth and nail at the moment through maggots and beckets, and it is going to be Christoph scratching his head. He knows that this is a teammate play here, as Darren Miller's has every right to defend his position. They are fighting for overall. They are on the same lap. However, two different pit stop strategies definitely means that life's about to get very, very interesting, as Christoph Peterson will wait for Darren Miller to get on by, or is he going to go for the aggressive overtake? He dives to the inside. Can he stick it on the apex? And does start to accelerate away from Darren Miller. He made it work out in his favor. Miller had no answer for that absolute send on the inside, and somehow in these conditions managed to stop. Jason Farmer continued to fight up against Christoph Pearson. Here's Chris Heinecker up against Conrad Martin as they brawl it out. Gerald Torres, Quentin Duplessis, and Reginald Mutilini all into the pits. Reginald's doing his final pit stop, and as a driver that fought out for the championship last time, well, he's going to have to do it again. And oh, heartbreak coming in for Darren Miller. Drive-through penalty comes into play and puts to bed that top 5 chance for him, and will be definitely going and getting a little bit upset on that one. But man, oh man, great solid defense, but the track limits here at Silverstone absolutely brutal, and has taken a couple of drivers out of the running order. So far we've seen 3 of those drive-throughs coming out during the course of this race. That has affected drivers up and down, and Reginald Mutilini and Gerard Pretorius, a stop-go 30-second for speeding in pit lane. Reginald and Pretorius, a stop-go 30-second for speeding in pit lane. You just saw the pass with Chris Heinecker over Conrad Martin, but 2 drivers that were on a stellar run too fast into pit lane, getting off the button a little bit too early, goes and absolutely kills themselves in this race, and will be fighting for recovery. And the frustration, I do think, on both drivers is going to be very, very valid, but there's only one person to blame, and that is yourself during the course of it. And it's unfortunate when it comes to it. It's brutal. Motorsport is brutal. It's a lady luck that can either smile on you or it can cry and cause a amount of pain, as Jeffrey LaRue finding out that Murphy's Law is in effect as he went off circuit. Now Ruin Heineke comes back on in. The Griffin Sim Racing drivers having a little bit of a close call for the rejoin of LaRue. And here comes Heineke saying, listen, I'm going to go elbow to elbow. Thank you for the position. I'm going to keep going, as LaRue tries to bring himself back towards himself and carries on the fight. Chris Heineke and Bego Krobler continue on their charge. Bego Krobler completed all his pit stops, is into 7th positions, top of those that have completed all their stops. Jared McCoom, who was the earlier of the drivers, is into 20th position. So the Team Wolf going and taking odd gambles and utilizing each other to make it work, as we do see the number 7 of Lucan Aids going a little bit slow. He's trying to recoup himself through Maggots Beckett's, and now on to the Hanger Straight. Not having an easy time out there. Will be trying to scratch his head on how to improve. He's down in 38th position, trying to close up the gap to Ludwig Zitzman, who still needs to put Waylon Johnson and the likes of Savesh Basson, who are on their pit stops. Reginald Mutaledi, Gerald Torres pull into the pits, and this is Chris Beermester closing the gap to Jackie Alberts. The Racing Stales having the Pandacity problem. And take a look, fastest lap comes in right towards the end of the race, and it is a 2:03.3. Christoph Peterson trying to close that 19-second deficit to Jason Farmer and Kieran Patterson, who are still pushing that long race ahead of them and continue to try and make it work out in their favor. They are yet to do their stops, same as Darren Miller. Conrad Martin is also yet to do any of his stops. This is really late plays from the drivers, and very peculiar strategies, as they will be getting closer to that double stack of pit stop. Is it going to be enough time to be able to get it done and clear any positions to stay within the top 10 and continue on your fights? As Jeffrey LaRue has a look in his mirror, sees Sean Loureiro putting his nose forward. Loureiro's going to go around the outside, long way around, not able to get the drive just as yet, as he continues on side by side. Loureiro keeps the battle on, looking to absolutely gun it around the outside. It is still close neck and neck between the two. Who's later on the brakes? And it's going to be a sweep across the nose for Loureiro up against Jeffrey LaRue, and nearly likes of Loureiro might have been sent farming there if it wasn't for Jeffrey LaRue going and climbing onto the anchors a little bit harder, allowing that pass to happen. Anton Lummers up against Riley Henning, a new driver to the field, and is having a great run in that top 20. He is trying to clear Anton Lummers, as we see Jan Verveers dives into pit lane to get his pit stops done and dusted. He wants to try and figure out any option at this point that might work out in his favor. And still, it is going to be a long race indeed for many of our drivers. Martin Rotemark, Conrad Martin continue to brawl it out between one another, and it does look like Conrad is having a difficult time, as Martin Rotemark once again showing his nose on that right-hand side, seeing where there is an option to get on by. Chris Heineke is 1 second up the road from them in the Porsche. So Chris Heineke is seeing this battle closing on. He's hoping for Martin to just show that nose a little bit more, get a bit more aggressive, and try and get that pass done. Open up the gap. Darren Miller pulling into pit lane, serving his first stop of the race. And we are expecting the likes of Conrad Martin to going to be doing the same, as well as Kieran Patterson and Jason Farmer, who are yet to do their stops during the course of the race. Anton Lummers and Riley Henning, 20th and 21st position, fights it out amongst each other. One more stop to go for them. They're in a little bit of a sticky situation to get their stop done, as everyone behind them, barring Chris Beermester, has completed all their pit stops. So they have to think about the long-term gains over the short-term drives. And unfortunately, going for that later stop might have been a bad call, but we can only tell towards the end of the race how that's going to work out for them, as Lummers and Henning still fight it out, and it's nose to tail. And gotta say, the Ferrari looking a little bit more hooked up through the corners, forces Lummers out wide. Anton Lummers onto the curb, and there goes Riley into the pits. He fought it out, he kept the pressure on, and finally got that drive into the pits to get himself sorted out, but also made life a little bit more difficult for Anton Lummers, who wasn't quite sure of that pit stop. Jason Farmer pulls into the pits, as we do see Martin Rotenbach get it ahead of Conrad Martin. Sean Larrera up on the inside of Ruud Heineke, tries to get that pass Hall hooked in. So they go through the long right-hander, and it all seems to work in favour for the Nissan GT-R. So Jason Farmer into pit lane. Where is he going to come out? Because this is going to be the tell. Christoph Peterson will clear him without an issue. But the question is, Bego Robler, who has completed all his pit stops, is the crucial factor here. He's racing to the end, and at the moment is on par for a podium if he can keep it all together. So Bego Robler getting going, and Jason Farmer is able to rejoin the circuit. So he's down into third place. He's got one more stop to go. 26.4 seconds is in the bag, and so far he's cleared Bego Krobler by that. Oh, Ludwig Zitzman into the wall. The Audi R8, the Team Tryon car, who is just having a difficult race at the moment. Bear it in mind, despite a difficult race, I've got to give it up to the drivers that are sticking it out through these treacherous conditions and continuing to see that through to the end. If you see the green, you've got to see the checkered, and we take our hats off to those drivers that even when the chips are down, where you are literally at the back, there is nothing to fight for. You dust yourself off, you get yourself up, you really get your teeth into it, and you carry on the race. That is definitely a driver I want to have in my team. Ruud Heineke and John Delfoenko coming into the pits. And John Delfoenko comes in looking to have a great time completing his final pit stop of the race. Ooh, massive side from Sean Larrero as he tries to close up on Darren Miller. The Nissan GT-R going and having a great run there. Kieran Patterson into the pits. This is going to be a close one as Christoph Peterson comes on by. Has he closed that distance? And it's a stop-go 30-second coming in from Ruud Heineke for speeding in pit lane. Ruud Heineke with a stop-go 30-second going to be hurting him out there. Christoph Peterson inherits the lead from Kieran Patterson. Is Jason Farmer going to be as lucky? He dives into the pits. So Jason Farmer ducking into the pits to get that final stop out of the way. He is concerned about Bego Krobler, and looking on that undercut to the PWSR team, Daniel de Villiers continues on his drive. He was the first of the top 10 to do his first pit stop, and now looks to be going a little bit deeper into the race to try and make it work. He has to keep the likes of Bego Krobler well enough away from him to stay in the fight. Bego Krobler wants to battle his way around, looking to clear Jason Farmer as soon as possible. Farmer still in pit lane, hasn't left as yet. Here comes Bego Krobler, who guns it right to the line. Is it enough to get ahead of Jason Farmer? And it does look like it's going to be close, and it's going to be Bego just slightly ahead of Jason Farmer, who stands on the gas, returns to the circuit, and now looks to put down the chase to Bego Krobler. Both drivers are going to be fighting it through to the end. Sean Larrera into pit lane from 11th position, as we do have a car sitting in the pits, and that is Ruud Heineke and Waylon Johnson, who are in pit lane trying to get themselves sorted out. And hopefully looking forward to seeing the checkered flag. I know many of these drivers are going to be willing the checkered flag to come out a little bit early, as 19 minutes left in round one of the EG Evolved ACC GT3 Championship here at RaceFace.Pro, and it is an all-new season. It is going to be the final round one of 2025 for RaceFace.Pro, and walking away with a victory here is going to be absolutely incredible. Anton Lummers and Jared McComb continue to brawl it out against one another. Henry Platt continues to fight out against Chris Heineke. It's good to see Henry Platt out there having a stellar drive. I do know that Henry Platt is also created, and this goes out to you iRacing fans out there, has created a program for iRacing to help you with just checking your lap times and such. Definitely well worth getting in touch and supporting local programmers who want to go and move forward the world of sim racing. And he's definitely want to have a chat to. Also, do want to touch on, he's a BMW Car Club driver. So he actually does a bit of racing in a BMW Z3 or Z4. One of the two. I can't put my finger on it, but I'm sure I'll get a message saying, hey, this is what the story is. Kieran Patterson, Daniel De Villiers into the pits. Alan Patterson going to go a little bit longer in this race. Christoph Peterson going to do exactly the same as well, trying to keep away from Bego Krobler, who is going to be looking to claw his way around. So, question is, Daniel De Villiers is leaving, Bego Krobler is coming, Kieran Patterson has checked out of the fight. Is it going to be enough? Bego up into 4th position as De Villiers drops down, and now it is a brawl between the front engines for 4th position. Kieran Patterson 5 seconds away, timed it to the T to get ahead of Bego Krobler. And now Daniel De Villiers looking to try and fight out that little bit more during the course of the race. This is going to be a very tight one. They've got Jason Farmer for company as well, who's going to make life rather interesting. Reginald Mutaleni returns to pit lane, trying to get his stops done and dusted. That would be his 4th stop. And it was a drive-through for track limit succeeded during the course of the race, and unfortunately hurting his race even further. I know he was quite confident going into this race. Unfortunately, didn't quite turn out in his favor. Jason Farmer hangs on the back of Daniel De Villiers as they fight their way through. Kieran Patterson trying to clear the likes of Bego Krobler, who's starting to eat into that gap and will be wanting to close it up at a rate of knots. We take a look as Christoph Peterson's 38 seconds ahead of Alan Patterson, so he will have enough time to clear Kieran in this race. However, the fight goes on as Jason Farmer is possibly in a good run here for a 3rd place podium, possibly heading into 2nd if he can time it just right. And not too far back, Michael Schultz clears Martin Rotenbach. These two still need to do their final pit stop, but Conrad Martin, interesting enough, the only driver out on circuit who still needs to do both his pit stops. He has not run out of fuel, he has not run low on fuel, he's kept it all together, and that Ferrari 296 seems to be working for him. Both LMU and ACC has gone and really stepped up the pace, and taking a look at it, kept up the fuel efficiency and the lap times to work out in his favor. Anton Lund is down at 15th. He still needs to do his final stop, so he is going to be in a world of hurt. But there is a couple of drivers that need to consider that as we head into the last 15 minutes and 40 seconds here at Silverstone. Everyone trying to get that little bit of drive. Everyone trying to figure out what is the game plan here as Daniel De Villiers sliding around, trying to keep it all together. Bego Krobler up ahead continues to open up the distance and will be trying to fight it out. So, major racing indeed for our pros and pro-ams, and Kieran Patterson putting a wheel off on the dirt. He is really trying to open up the distance. He knows that he's getting hunted down by Bego Krobler, Daniel De Villiers and Jason Farmer for that top spot, and he does not want to lose it on his return. Jaco Nadir off into the weeds, and unfortunately it looks like that Mustang rather second hand as well. We go on board and you can see that bonnet lifting up in the air. It's hitting Porky to Gavin Screen and get on by. They are clear. We also have a bit of noise coming in from Chris Heineke, who landed up off circuit. Michael Schultz with the drive-through penalty is going to be kicking himself left, right and center on that one. Not ideal for him. And unfortunately, Treehouse Works Racing driver that has been properly chasing for the top is now having to serve a drive-through plus that pit stop. Top 10 slipped out of the clutches as he just put a wheel wrong here at Silverstone, and so far our stewards have made sure it's going to hurt. Jan Fitzale and Ronnie Henning finding it out. The two are brawling as we do see Fitzale runs out a bit wide, getting right onto the back of the Ferrari, and it looks like the error wash plus the slide compromising him. Ruben Heineke stopped in the pits. He's got a stop-go 30-second penalty, and I think is possibly calling a quit for his race. And that's a bit of an unfortunate tale for Ruben Heineke of the Griffin Sim Racing team. I'd love to see him get back out on circuit. I'd love to see him race to the end. Because once you see the green, you got to see the check. You've got to. And Antonio Gamble, this goes out to you. If you could just get hold of Ruin Heineke and tell him, get on the radio, get going, see this through to the end. You might be at the back, but see it through to the end as the Griffin Sim Racing should. Reginald Mutalini getting past Weather Johnson now opens up a little bit of a gap. He's going to see that Ludwig Zitzman coming into the pits is an opportunity to gain a position as well. And it is going to be an absolute race on note. And Lummers dives into the pits and will be getting himself sorted out during the course of this race. So Kieran Patterson, Alan Patterson going the long way round are yet to do their final stops. Christoph Peterson and Alan Patterson. Kieran Patterson has completed all these stops. He is currently holding a net second place with the distance, as Alan Patterson is 42.6 seconds away from Christoph Peterson, who's just having an almighty drive out there and will be looking to hold that top spot. But Kieran Patterson, Vega Frobler, and Daniel De Villiers are still close to one another, and don't count out Jason Farmer in that 6th place, who is trying to close up the distance as well. Sean Herrera and Jan Fiers look to carry on and look to push themselves that little bit further in for the race. Jackie Alberts and Keegan Bowen continue to open up the drive amongst one another, not having an easy time, and continue to see where the advantage is going to come into play. De Villiers right onto the back of Vega Frobler, 0.5 of a second, continues to push on that little bit more, trying to see where it's going to work out in his favor. Always a tough race indeed, as every single one of their drives working out. And many pressure situations have come through over the course of the season between these two drivers as they battle on. Vega Frobler and Daniel De Villiers not having an easy time out there as Christoph Peterson leads out the race. But for Vega Frobler, this is an opportunity to close and open as Daniel De Villiers slips down into that 5th position. However, Daniel De Villiers wants to claw his way back. This is a driver that secured 3rd place last season and fought it out tooth and nail, wants to get those points yet again, wants to clinch a pro championship win, something he has fought out in the past many times before, and will want to do it yet again, as we do see Jared McCook going and making his way through for Team Wolf as well. So Vega Frobler will see his teammate up ahead and informing, listen, we're coming through and I need you to be either very quick or well enough away from me as we head into the final 10 minutes of the race. Once again, Conrad Martin, I have no idea how this man does it. And for 2 pit stops to go, 10 minutes, he's going to double stack his pit stop. But I want to take my hat off to him as a driver. I mean, I got to see Conrad Martin when he was sitting in the AM categories and was fortunate enough to be able to race against Conrad Martin myself. And I can tell you how much he has really gotten better and better. This is a driver that is bouncing between sims, plus this fuel efficiency has absolutely taken him by storm. A very late choice in pit stop, so not quite sure about the strategy, but I take my hat off to him. I really do. That is a feat that not many can pull off, especially in hard racing, staying within the top 10. Well, talking about from consistency there, let's talk about consistently battling. Vega Frobler and Daniel De Villiers trying to get themselves going as Jan Verveers dives into the dirt yet again, loses that little bit of traction and loses out to John Delfinco, who will carry on the momentum. Darren Miller pulling into pit lane to serve his pit stop. That leaves likes of Christoph Peterson, Alan Patterson, Conrad Martin, Jeffrey LaRue, and the likes of Henry Platt, who are still out on circuit trying to figure out what do they need to do to keep it going. Christoph pulls into pit lane and trying to get his final stop clear and done. He's got enough gap to hold first place. The question comes down as Kieran, Bago, Daniel De Villiers are currently fighting out for second and third place. Kieran has checked out of the fight, 4.4 seconds, and we've still got an ongoing battle as Bago, Grobler, Daniel De Villiers and Jason Farmer. And take a look as they mob the likes of our Team Wolf driver and Chris Heineke a little bit further down. But man, oh man, Benjamin Till, apologies, Benjamin Till in the Lamborghini got absolutely hunted down, mobbed, and told to move out of the way of note. And so clear through. And Jason Farmer following the same as Daniel De Villiers. They peer to the inside line. Something tells me trying to cool those tires down a little bit more, possibly a little bit more concerned with how it's going to go. If they're getting a little bit too warm out there where the rain has not let up, but there is sort of a line to follow in this race. Conrad Martin, LaRue and Platt yet to do their stops, along with Alan Patterson, who's hoping to stay in that top 5. Alan is 11 seconds away from Kieran Patterson, so you will lose out that position, possibly get into the fight with Bago, Daniel and Jason Farmer when he gets going. Conrad Martin finally pulling into the pits, and the team saying, listen, we've been waiting in this rainstorm for a long time. Where have you been? Conrad saying, well, I was enjoying the sights and sounds. I was out there having fun. And, well, I just didn't want to back off from my race. Double stacking his pit stop now. Let's see where he's going to end up. It's going to be very interesting to see how he falls down the order, how far he's actually climbed up. Another good fight out there. Michael Schultz and Keegan Bone fighting it out. Ravenous Motorsport up against the Treehouse Works Racing as they continue on the fight with one another. Jackie Alberts and Sean Lerero continue on their drive as well. And great to see many drivers coming back for a return. Those coming back for some proper fights, looking to move forward. And Michael Schultz, to not take away as a driver, has been a champion in another league. It was a ZRC that he was actually a champion in. Going in, developing his driving from super aggressive to toning it down, getting that momentum and consistency, and that took him to a championship win. And that is something that has been a great thing to see as the drivers develop and hone their skills over the many years of motorsport. Chris Heineke and Johan Fierce fight it out, and it's nose to tail between the two of them and continue to try and open up that gap. Herman Whitner trying to close up the gap to them as well. Sean Lerero all over the back of Jackie Alberts as they fight out. Alan Patterson pulls into the pit lane as he gets himself sorted. But let's talk about an ongoing fight as Bago Grobler opening up the distance to Daniel De Villiers and Jason Farmer. They're going to be overtaking, so Bago up into third place. De Villiers 2 seconds off the back of him, and Jason Farmer 0.8 of a second fighting for that fourth place, wanting to close the distance to Bago Grobler. Chris Heineke defending against Johan Fierce, who looks in the inside. Whitner tried to take it as well. Very close between them. Delfonco goes off a circuit, rejoins, and he loses out a bit of time. Johan Fierce gains a position as it's unfortunately Herman Whitner off into the dirt and contact against Chris Heineke. Contact against Heineke. Try to rejoin. Nose to tail, and that was all she wrote. And here comes Anton Lammers to pick up the pieces. He waited. He saw the fight, and he's now trying to pick up the pieces. Lammers on Herman will be saying, hey buddy, I'm here. And Herman with that front end damage. Chris Heineke with the rear end. 4 minutes to go. And here comes Anton Lammers fighting for the inside line. And Herman Whitner going to be cursing that last little bit of impact during his race. Jeffrey LaRue, Platt and Conrad Martin pull into the pits as it's just come off the rails for the final race, or the final laps of this race. Michael Schultz keeps up the fight with Keegan Bowen as both unrelenting at the moment as they continue on. Conrad Martin comes out in 21st position ahead of Quan Duplessis and now has to try and fight his way through. A double stack pit stop there. Didn't quite work out in his favour from the top 10 down into 21st, but showed how long you can actually go on the tank with that Ferrari. I think he still had a little bit more in him, but just here to get those final stops out of the way. Schultz loses out the drive to Keegan Bowen, and now looks to try and close up. As we go to Jason Farmer, fighting out for 4th position as it stands. De Villiers trying to open up the gap as much as possible, but it is going to be late on the brakes. The Ferrari getting thrown in through the corners to try and close up the distance to the Nissan GTR. Takes a very wide line there and will be a bit concerned for track limits exceeded. He's managing to avoid that, but it was very, very close over the rumble strips he goes. The anti-cut curbs, what's that? Just put him in between the car and keep your foot absolutely flat as Farmer looks to keep the pressure on Daniel De Villiers at all costs at the moment. Schultz fighting Keegan Bowen, and we are getting reports down the order. Reginald Mutaleni into the dirt. Drive-through penalty for him for track limits exceeded. Another one going and absolutely tearing his race apart. That will be his second of the drive-throughs to serve, and a gut punch to the confidence he had coming into this race. He was working desperately into the dying stages of practice to just get that car hooked up. Unfortunately, not this time, and round 1 has been brutal for most of the drivers. Schultz trying to get the drive on Keegan Bowen, who holds the inside line heading into Magnussen Beckett. He will keep it all together through the left-hander and the right-hander. Schultz trying to carry the drive, goes down into 2nd gear and looks to try and get the drive coming out of the corner, aiming for the hanger straight. Has the Porsche got the leg up on the competition? As we get reports of the leader, Christoph Peterson on the final lap. Kieran Patterson in 2nd, Vega Krubler in 3rd. Daniel De Villiers holds on to 4th place by 0.3 of a second from Jason Farmer, who continues to hunt down that Nissan GTR at all costs. Keeps the pressure on, looking around, saying, I want to be there. I want to clear you. I will clear you in this fight. Absolutely tremendous running for all our drivers, and Keegan Bowen gets a poor drive out of the corner. That is Michael Schultz clearing, and now needs to hold it together for one more lap. Can Schultz break away from Keegan Bowen, who has kept a consistent defense, now switches on to the attack? Jason Farmer, feeling that time is running out, has to throw that car in and make sure that De Villiers has no room to turn in, has no room to fight. John Delfinco coming into the mix, as well as Darren Miller feeling that pressure, looks to try and fight their way through, seeing what's going to work out. Miller trying to slow the car down on the apexes, knowing that the Lamborghini is hunting tooth and nail at the moment, and Darren Miller is not going to be losing this drive. He wants to hang in at all costs. Jason Farmer looked to dive on the inside, couldn't quite get it to work out in his favor, but Christoph Peterson is making his way through. He is going to be smiling ear to ear on this one, as there's not far to go for the finish line. He is so close to the run, and take a look, there's contact for Fears, Miller and Delfinco coming into a bit of contact with one another, and that has completely turned their race on its head, taking the likes of De Villiers and likes of Darren Miller out of the race. Delfinco out of the race, and this is for Fears, the 48 car, who was just tailing on at the moment. And what on earth happened? It was contact between Miller. He lost out the drive, and there's the contact. So John Delfinco went into the likes of Miller, and that was that, and Webnut nearly getting a face full of the car. But Christoph Peterson takes the victory for round 1. Kieran Patterson went into the wall. Kieran into the wall. Bago Krobler gets on by. De Villiers gets on by. Jason Farmer gets on by. And Kieran Patterson, who had it all in the bag, went into the wall and falls down. Bago Krobler clenches 2nd place. De Villiers holds on to 3rd. Farmer takes 4th. Kieran will battle his way back across the line in 5th. And what a blow. Alan Patterson will hold on for 6th place. Martin Rotenbach, and a drive-through for Jared Bekum, who will take out the top 20 there, top 10. And that is unfortunate running for Kieran. who was in line for second place. It was 3 corners left, and he ate the wall, taking him out of it. Bago's going to be thrilled. De Villiers will sit there going, well, I'll take it on the run as well. Jeremy Kim with a drive-through penalty is going to continue to fight out with Michael Schultz as they still in the race. Key Mo and Sean Leref, Jackie Alberts, John Delfinco, along with Darren Miller, Henry Platt, and Fafirs yet to cross the line as they battle their way around the circuit. It has been a wild, wild one. Henry Platt off into the dirt as well. He took some damage as Miller and Platt had contact with one another. And there is a big impact for Fafirs. Fafirs off into the dirt. He loses out. Platt comes past. He's going to be happy on that one. But Fafirs loses out on the end. And that is it, folks. Right towards the end. Drivers losing that little bit of concentration. And that brought to bed some of the racing. And man, oh man, what a wild, wild race it was. Oh boy, I've got to say, for round one, it was absolutely exciting. And I can't wait to see what the rest of the season is going to look like for our Pro and Pro-Am. Unfortunately, a couple of drivers taking a solid impact in their race will be going and scratching our heads. Jared Bakun with the 32nd will be falling down to 14th position after trying to come back in for that top 10. He misses out right at the line. But for Kieran Patterson, that is the absolute heartbreak for him. 3 corners to go, and that was all she wrote for the Porsche, spinning out into the wall, gifting Bago Krobler that second place, and the likes of Darren Miller and Daniel De Villiers, who's going to be happy on his result as well, because that was absolutely mad to the line. Holy moly, Oli, that was wild. That was incredibly wild, and honestly, I'm all for it. And as we take a look at some of the highlights, we're going to be trying to bring in some of the drivers to come and have a chat to us. And first to it is going to be third place driver, Daniel De Villiers, who is third place in the pros. Daniel De Villiers, welcome to the commentary box. And, well, it looked like you were out of the podium, and then all of a sudden, you're in it. You're third place. How are you feeling?
Sweaty, man, sweaty.
Let's go back a little bit. The start of the race, you were up into third place. You were fighting it out with Kieran Allen all having a go at you. Then Jason Farmer was coming at you. You took an early stop. What was your reasoning in that fight? Because we thought there was going to be team rules of just drive, and it looked like that all went and got put to bed.
Yeah, so what happened, I was one full PSI all around overpressured on my tire, so I just went to pit early just to cool them down and then just get back to pace again. So yeah, that's the reason for the early pit stop. When Kieran and Ellen caught me, I was trying to save tires, but I knew that was going to mess up my race, so I had to get out of the way and try to see if I can come back nice and slow.
Well, and let's talk about at the end, because Jason Farmer, 0.4 of a second on the back of you, really laying in the pressure. I mean, that was absolutely mental. Your race with him towards the end was nose to tail. How are you feeling having that huge amount of pressure laid into you?
Yeah, no, I actually focused more on getting Bago, and yeah, and I messed up so much trying to catch him, not focusing hard enough, and then I see just Farmer coming, and I'm checking him in the mirror. So that second last lap was very, very close, that we had a good battle, but I'm glad I got on top of that.
Well, it was absolutely phenomenal, and I've got to say I'm really, really looking forward to it. You came third place last season, and now starting on the podium, going and getting a third place here for round 1 for season 24 of the EG Evolved RaceFace.Pro ACC GT3 Championship. How are you feeling heading into round 2 next week?
I'm feeling good, confident. I feel like I'm in the wrong car. Should have been in a Honda by the looks of it. Christoph gets so quick in that car, but I'm sure he had a very different strat toward us. But yeah, I'm very confident for this car and for this season.
Oh, absolutely wonderful stuff. Before I let you go to enjoy the celebration, then, well, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of hugs for Kieran, who unfortunately third last corner got it into the wall. But anything you want to
Yeah,
say
very, very unfortunate for Kieran. His brake pedal snapped at that moment.
Oh, so
Very,
that
very
was the
unlucky. I'm not
problem.
going to laugh, but it is so unlucky that it's always on the last section of a lap and so on. It's kind of like a thing in life.
Oh, the
But yeah,
brake
no, but
pedal.
he did a brilliant job. He was cool and all that stuff. So yeah, he actually deserved the podium more than me.
Well, I'm sure it was cool up until that moment. And you know what? You got to be in it for win it. And you yourself have gone through trials and tribulations during your racing seasons, from hardware failure, network failures, accidents, and all that. And you know all too well,
Don't
you've got to be
jinx
in for
it.
it.
Just don't jinx it.
No, we're going to see you fighting for the podium this season. I'm looking forward to it. But Daniel, before I let you go to enjoy the celebrations for grabbing that third place, anything you would like to say to all the sponsors, to all the admin, to the absolute incredible petrol heads out in the virtual grandstands that were standing cheering you on, absolutely drenched in these conditions. I felt bad personally for them, and I'm sure you were feeling bad in the car just seeing them getting soaked. Anything you want to say to them?
Yeah, no, I want to say thanks to everyone for a very good first race. See, some people are still a bit rusty with the racecraft, but it will improve, I'm sure of that. And yeah, thanks to Alan for the liveries that he made for us, for the PWSR team. And yeah, let's go get them.
Absolutely wonderful stuff. Well, PWSR is definitely going to be lining up as the top of the teams to beat. A stellar run for Daniel de Villiers taking the third place here. Let's bring in our second place car, Bego Hrobler from Team Wolf. Bego, welcome to the commentary box. Something that we thought was going to be a third place suddenly snapped into a second place, and we go and say snap as we hear Kieran Patterson at his brake pedal snap underneath him. But how are you feeling after a stellar qualifying? You really took the fight up to the top, but then going through the race, you were brawling with Daniel de Villiers. You were brawling with Kieran Patterson. You were brawling with the PWSR cars and Jason Farmer throughout. I mean, it even came down to the wire where Benjamin Till had to just slide out of the way as you were coming up at a rate of knots to it.
How's it, Stephen? Yeah, first of all, sorry to hear about Kieran. He drove a great race and he was on for a great result on his comeback race there. So sorry to hear about that, and I hope he gets his pedal sorted so he's back again next week. But yeah, race was tough. We were within the team. We were very unsure of which way to go strategy-wise, and in the end, we kind of didn't commit to either. And I think that almost cost me in the end, with other guys spending a bit less time in the pits than me. But yeah, I had to work to get to do the undercut on Daniel after he initially undercut me. So, but it was good fun. Great first race of the season. Had a lot of fun.
Well, let's talk about that fighting, because you were nose to tail for a long time and working your way through the traffic. What was the game plan? Because these conditions are highly unfavorable for overtaking. You had to go completely offline. You were onto the curbs. You were fighting for position. What was the game plan getting through the traffic and communication with the team to just find out where they are on circuit to try and stay alive?
Yeah, I think unfortunately most of the guys in our team, Kieran and Ben, had rough races, so they were kind of more towards the back. And Jared did his first stop on lap 1, I think, so he was kind of out of sync. So there wasn't too much information to rely on from behind. But yeah, I actually didn't have it too bad with the back markers, to be honest. I don't know, things just worked out. Like whenever I would approach I remember getting up to Mitteleni and Kelly and somebody else, LaRue, I think, and sort of as I get within the 2-second window, they all peel off into the pits. So I was quite lucky in that regard. But yeah, with regards to the battle with Daniel, I knew that the only place realistically he could pass would be on the run after Maggots and Beckett's, but I was quicker. The Aston's much better through there than the Nissan. So I knew if I just every lap, doesn't matter how close he is going in, if I can just keep it clean, he won't be close enough going out. So that's just what I focused on, and yeah, it was close a few times, but it worked out in the end.
Well, absolutely great stuff indeed. Well, you got that second place. It's a good run. After last night in LMU, you were battling out and just wasn't quite turning into your favor. But anything you would like to say to all the sponsors here at RaceFace.Pro, to all the admins that are working in the background, and most importantly, I think you agree with me on this one, the petrol heads out there in the virtual grandstand, soaked head to toe, cheering you on. And I know the Team Wolf likes of Derek Beckerman was busy shouting from the rooftops. We could hear him in the commentary box here, cheering on the Team Wolf and making sure that they see you guys through to the end. Anything you'd like to say to everyone out there?
Yeah, just first of all, to all the sponsors, thanks for being with us for another season. We hope we can make it another good one and make you guys happy. And then to all the admins and yourself included, the guys that do the stream and everybody behind the scenes who don't get mentioned, thanks for what's been a great year so far. We're in the final stretch now, and we can all go and have a bit of a rest. So let's make this last season a good one. It's started off smoothly so far, so let's hope it keeps going that way. Yeah, and then obviously to the petrol heads, as you say, massive thanks to those guys that tune in every week and keep watching and give us this platform to share our passion with them. And yeah, just special shout out to Derek. I think he's our biggest and more than likely our only fan, but that doesn't matter. Such a big shout out to Derek.
Well, absolutely wonderful, wonderful stuff, and a stellar race on your pod. Bego, congratulations on your second place. Bego Krobler of Team Wolf going and having a stellar run there. That being said, there can only be one winner, and that is going to be the most dominating driver here tonight, Christoph Peterson, taking the victory. Christoph, welcome to the commentary box. First things first, on screen right now was you trying to fight your way after a pit stop against likes of Darren Miller, who wasn't giving you an inch. How was it being in a fight, knowing that the PWSR team has come out in force to ensure they're going to be fighting for the championship?
I was thinking maybe he tries to hold me up a little bit, but the gap was so big that I wasn't too stressed. So I just waited until there was a good opportunity, and then I think he kind of gave up in that one corner where I passed him. I don't know, it was just perfect weather for my car, honestly. I love Silverstone in general. It's one of my faster tracks, and the slight rain with a big dry line, that's very good for the Honda if it's not too hot. The temperatures were really low, so that helped a lot.
Well, I mean, let's talk about it, because you had the quickest lap time in the race, absolutely insane with the 2:03, but also your qualifying time was lightning quick. What has happened to make this little Honda such a fighter? Because we have seen different cars in the season. The Audi R8s have returned. The Hondas have come out with 2 out on the circuit. We've also got the Nissan GTRs. It seems like the older cars seem to be working a little bit better, and the less picked of the cars seem to be in the fight.
Yeah, I mean, all the older cars usually have a little bit better mechanical grip than the new ones, so they're usually very good in the rain. And the Honda in general is just probably the best car in the rain in the game, at least in the lighter rain conditions. I would say in the medium rain and stuff that goes above that, the Ferrari and McLaren are getting a little bit better, and the Aston is also always up there, in the Porsche. I didn't expect at all to be 1 second ahead of the grid in quali. Like, no way. I expected like Kieron maybe to be up there with the Porsche, Bago and the Aston to have to be closer, and Daniel, of course. Like, they all have good cars in the wet. So I don't know. Maybe it's just because I like the track so much, and I had a lot of practice lately on this track, so it just clicked. I don't know.
Well, it turned out in your favor, and lots of fun going into it. But this isn't your end of the racing week. You've still got ERA to deal with on the weekend. How is it balancing practicing for multiple different circuits. I mean, Silverstone is vastly different to many of the other circuits, and especially the rain conditions. As a pro driver, for those, just as a little bit of information for those out there, what's your game plan in terms of practice, strategy, and just making sure you have a good car underneath you while racing in multiple different series during the course of the week?
Car choice is crucial, I would say. I'm also racing in the third league actually on Mondays in Apex Online Racing with also a pretty strong grid. And of course, like after so many seasons of especially ERA and all the other leagues, also RaceFace is like my 5th season, I think, already. You've done all tracks already, and especially in this car that I've driven so much, so you don't need that much practice to be at least close to your personal best. So that's why I'm staying with the Honda and I'm not switching cars around, because I think if I would drive maybe the 488 in this league and the Honda in that league and then maybe the Porsche in another or something, I would not be able to practice enough to be consistently this fast. But in the Honda, I can just arrive 1 hour before the race, do 20 laps, and then do my best.
Well, absolutely.
Usually I'm kind of prioritizing one league over the other, but yeah, it's sometimes a bit difficult to balance, but it works.
Well, it's still wonderful to have you here, and honestly, some great racing. Before I let you go to enjoy the celebrations on your victory tonight, anything you want to say to all the admins, drivers, and teams that were out there on the circuit with you, and also to all the amazing petrol heads that follow sim racing from across the globe, looking towards here at round 1 for the EG Evolved ACC GT3 Championship, powered by RaceFace. Anything you want to say to them after they're going to be released to go and just dry themselves off after a very wet race at Silverstone?
Yeah, thanks to EG Evolved for sponsoring this and making these nice trophies. And yeah, thanks to everyone involved. And I'm happy to be here. Like I'm glad to be back after that 1 season break earlier this year. I'm having fun. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying the competition. I'm enjoying what's going on track. It's nice. So I'll be back next week.
Absolutely wonderful, wonderful stuff. Christoph from Logistical Nightmare Racing, we wish you luck on your racing for the rest of this week.
Thank you. Bye.
Christoph Peterson taking the victory here tonight at RaceFace, but we are having a ton of fun out on the circuit. We're looking forward to some more fun heading in towards next week. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it does bring us to the end of this evening. As we head towards next week, we're going to be diving into Suzuka, heading out to Japan to have some great racing. And that being said, we're also going to be taking a look on Tuesday. Our iRacing GT3 kicks off, and they will be having some fun out on the circuit. On Wednesday, it is our Lamar Ultimate that will be battling for the top end of the order. Thursday, we are back at Suzuka for the EG Evolved Round 2 of our ACC GT3 Championship. A massive shout out to all our sponsors, Team SBR, Rhino Utility, along with Virtual Motorheads, and absolutely incredible run with Simulator Cave. And that also brings in, if you're competing in these seasons, you are able to get a draw into the raffle for the Simulator Cave 16,000 Rand aluminum T-slot rig. It is absolutely incredible, and you want to be a part of the show. You do want to be part of that and try and secure yourself a strong rig from Simulator Cave. But that being said, go and take a look at all our sponsors. A variety of Black Friday sales coming in from across the board, whether you're into alternative power or you're looking to step it up in your sim racing. EG Evolved has got you covered for the sim racing, along with Simulator Cave. Rhino Utility has got all your power needs, and SBR going and having a bit of fun. Keep an eye on Virtual Motorheads. A lot to talk about when there comes to products released here in South Africa. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's been absolutely incredible. Make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit that bell notification icon. A massive shout out to Jacques Saunders, aka Jar Jar, that was joined us in the early start of this broadcast, and we look forward to having him for round 2 next week, as we're going to be kicking things off with some great racing. From myself, Stephen Koenig, from Tim, who is out on cameras, to Jim, who is our flag marshal from here at THT Productions. We look forward to seeing you all again. And like always, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, everybody, as we close off round 1, the final one for 2025. Happy holidays, folks.